Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thanks so much for joining me here today. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a look at Floki, and just before we do, we always peek at Bitcoin because it's important to understand that, but there's not a direct correlation here, but I just want you to note that we're right at about 50,200 for Bitcoin, so it just breached 50,000, which was kind of a tentative resistance level. So we'll see here soon how that reacts. Ultimately, we want Bitcoin to be over 52,300 to just consider any type of bullish momentum, right? So this is premature, but we are at about a 6% increase in the last 2 trading days. So we've seen a lot of green across the board, which is a nice change of pace. Just bear in mind, there is some news later this week here, with inflation and a few other things. So it's important that we just be cautiously optimistic and don't expect Bitcoin just to ramp right back up. We got to remember it fell 27% in just 16 hours, right? So we got to respect that and hopefully learn from that and see how things go. Now, just before we jump into Floki, I want you to know I'm not a financial advisor. I just love teaching people how to trade, right? It's my passion. I've been doing this for years. I've been trading for over 15, and I can tell you that my goal is to just help you become more self-sufficient. So if you would benefit from a trading community, link in the description below. Awesome scenario. I actually provide signals for every single trade that I take, as well as the fact that there's tremendously great opportunity for most people to kind of become better traders. There's a great chat as well. I'm interactive with my community daily. So check that out in your own time. Now, looking at Floki here, let's look at some of the obvious key indicators here. First of all, we got the 50-day SIP moving average. Yes, it's albeit very small, working as resistance though. You can see the price came up to that and rejected out. Another thing to note too, and let's go ahead and pull this up here. I want to just kind of preface here with this. We got a tremendous amount of volume accumulation, the most amount of volume accumulation right near the top. That's not a good sign. In other words, that means a lot of people FOMO'd in at this point, and then when the price came back down, the whales took their profits, and a lot of us are kind of left holding our position. So I'm sure quite a few of you got a huddle bag about higher than where the price action's at right now. But it looks like about 26,000, if I'm not mistaken, is the average range here for the price action. Okay. So not great, not terrible, but it's a resistance level. We got to respect the fact that, right around 26, 27,000 is a strong resistance level. All right, let's look at the couple other quick things here as well. RSI is testing 50. We're trying to get back over 50, but aren't yet. So ultimately, that kind of just reaffirms the fact that there's a kind of a resistance level right around 16,300. So right in the channel here, you can see a lot of volume, of course, accumulating in the last few weeks. That is essentially where we're seeing a resistance. And you can see also that the 50 on the RSI is working as a resistance level for the most part. It broke above for a couple days, but the price has spent most of its time under 50 on the RSI. And that's not usually a good sign, not traditionally a good sign. Breaking above 50 would be a very beneficial scenario. And we could see that here today. Obviously, there's a really strong push here in this 1 to 2 hour, maybe even 4 hour period. We'll identify that here shortly. But let's look at the moving averages. We're below the 200, got rejected by the 200, and the resistance level about 18,600. However, the 50-day SIP moving average is working as a support. Awesome stuff. We like to see that. So all good things here in that sense. We're up over 50 and under 70 on the RSI as well. So those are very, very good signs. I like what I'm seeing here so far from Floki, both in the big term and in the short term in that sense. Whereas, yes, we are below a lot of volume and there's a strong resistance much higher than the price action. We're seeing that test of that 50 on the RSI on the 1 day, which is a very good sign. Okay, so we got some decent indicators here overall for Floki. Taking a look at the Ishimoku cloud, we can see that we're still within the range of holding your position. In other words, just because the price is coming back down doesn't mean we necessarily have to sell. It could continue upwards. But just note that, as soon as the price action intersects with this, that would be, I don't know, somewhere in the range of about, what is that, 16 hours? So 16 hours from now, we could see the price action intersect, and that would be considered a sell signal. But for right now, the cloud is basically effectively telling us that we're above the cloud, conversion lines over the baseline, and we got the lagging span not intersecting with price action. So those are all good things, and we would basically want to just keep our position open if you have a long position, especially if you got in somewhere around here, around 12,000. You'd probably be in pretty good shape right now. What, upwards maybe 20, 30%? Yeah, about 35% right now. So that's good. All good stuff. I would consider holding your position, of course. Again, depending on your overall position, what you're planning to do. If you just want to do a quick scalp trade, you probably want to take your profits by now. But if you're considering a short-term swing trade, or you're just trying to average back, down, so to speak, because you bought at a higher price point, wouldn't hurt to add to your position, dollar cost average as well. That's extremely important in scenarios like these. Let's go ahead and take one last look here at TD sequential. See where we're at here. We're at a 7. We got a reset down to a 3. So this basically just implies that we might still see roughly about 6 hours worth of bearish sentiment. In other words, the price could continue to retrace back down. But commonly when you see an increase like this, it'll come down about 50% of the way and consolidate at that point. So I wouldn't expect the price to come down much lower than 16,000, just based on the fact that it came up to 19, up from 12, and it's going to find that halfway point here. So just bear that in mind. And then also too, if we look at the most recent amount of volume too, obviously this is a short amount of data, you can see a lot of volume still accumulated down about 12,000. So ultimately, we're well above that, and that it does help reaffirm that as a potential support. Very last thing we're going to look at would be just say EMA and VWAP. And we're trying to break above the VWAP right now. So the volume weighted average price is essentially working as a support, as potential. But you can see that the standard deviation lines, the price got outside the standard deviation lines. It had to retrace back down. That happens when things get too big for its britches, if you will, where the price goes too far outside that deviation and it has to retrace. But at this point in time, it's looking like it's going to be consolidating right at the EMA and the volume weighted average price, which is essentially a very, very good sign. Just basically kind of reaffirming the fact that it shouldn't go much lower at this point, because it's kind of holding closer to the amount of volume that we've seen in the last 24 hours. This is an average volume price, right? So volume, again, is a very important indicator that not a lot of people look at, and I think it's important to understand. So I see all good things here from Floki. I think I wouldn't say, again, out of the doghouse, as I like to say, but you can tell that 19,000 or 18.5 is essentially a strong resistance. However, we're well above that $12,000, $13,000 range, and I don't think we're going to see the price come much lower than 16,000 at this point. Just note that we are on the downtrend, so we could see about 6 to 12 more hours worth of bearish continuation to the side or down, but the likelihood of it coming up is much higher. One last thing to note, and this is just the obvious, we've got a pretty strong support level here right at about 12,000 even, right? But we haven't made higher highs and higher lows yet. It's too early to tell. So within the next 24 hours, so I can cover this again and take another look. If we are making higher highs, and higher lows, then we'll be in good shape to see this continue upwards, of course. But if we just keep seeing these strong, random, sharp increases of 1 or 2 hours worth of just strong amount of, large amount of volume, like this right here, then, it's going to come back down and it's not going to make much progress, okay? So we need some consistency from Floki instead of these strong little bursts, because they're just going to fizzle out in the long run, right? So again, mostly good here from Floki, just that little cause for concern there in the sense that the price action is, not to say this volatility is a bad thing, it's just that, if we can't get a healthy continuation like we saw here previously, up over like a nice staircase pattern, then we're going to lose out. And just bear in mind, Floki, this most recent pattern here is fairly reliant on Bitcoin. As soon as Floki does well and Bitcoin sells off by a small percent, Floki sells off by a very large percent. So you got to be aware of that. I would recommend not setting a strong or like a close stop loss, that's really close to price action. Obviously, maybe somewhere in the range of maybe 10 to 12,000 as a rough estimate, but don't have a super tight stop loss right now because the fluctuation from Floki is pretty significant. As soon as Bitcoin sells off, you can expect Floki to do the same. Okay, just be mindful of that. It's got that knee-jerk reaction going on, which is pretty standard for coins right now. So just be aware of that. That's why we look at Bitcoin first. So just some friendly advice. And if you found benefit here, of course, comment below, let me know. Hopefully you can let me know as well what kind of position you're holding. Interested in hearing that. But if you're interested in becoming a better trader, consider my trading community. We're going to transition from Patreon to a website here soon to have a much better platform for our members and just overall a better learning experience too. So making that robust here in the very near future, working very hard to get that done. So thanks again for your patience, and I really appreciate your time. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.